Hi everyone, I'm Mary with Mary Greeley News. Thank you for joining me. I want to cover Mount Rainier and its recent activity. I was inspired by a post that was sent to my Twitter account. And here you can see the earthquakes and the magma. And there was one spot of a possible landslide. Let me see if I can find it as I pull it down. But I want to talk about the threat that Mount Rainier has for the Seattle area and the Puget Sound. The biggest threat would be Lahars, or mud flows. In the past, these mud flows have gone all the way down through the valley and devastated this location up to about 100 feet of debris and mud. And I marked out the two main rivers that would carry the Lahars if Mount Rainier were either to have a minor eruption or a steam eruption that would melt any number of the glaciers up there. Scientists believe that Mount Rainier would have what they call a moderate eruption. There has been in the past ash all the way over by Ellensburg and by Yakima, Washington. About 3 inches of ash has fallen in those two locations from past eruptions from Mount Rainier, east of that location. A steam explosion could happen without the eruption of magma. And I wanted to show you two signatures of rock slides. Notice how there looks to be like maybe a small earthquake, but the signature is mostly at the top. And this is the next image. See how it tapers off? But they are very concerned about Lahar's mud flows flowing all the way down into the Portland area. Yeah, the devastation would be huge. I found an article on USGS dated October 19th where President Trump went to the Mount Rainier area and toured the new Lahar warning system that was placed there at Mount Rainier National Park. It says here the Trump administration is working tirelessly to enhance public safety around America, including wildfires and now volcanoes, said Deputy Secretary McGregor. I first heard about the concept back in 2015, and with more than 90,000 people living in Lahar danger zones, it's great to announce the first install of a modern early warning system in over a decade at Mount Rainier, and more will follow. The USGS currently monitors Mount Rainier volcanic activity in partnership with the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network at 13 seismic and 6 global positioning systems installed and located within 12 miles, 20 kilometers of the summit. In addition to the 2 Lahar stations announced today, 3 more stations are scheduled to be installed in the park in coming weeks. Now, these Lahar stations work off of sound. So when the sound of moving rock and gravel and mud and water comes down, they have anywhere between 3 hours to maybe only 45 minutes to get to higher ground. As you know, they don't list all of the earthquakes that have been occurring there. Here we got an image of the state of Washington. Down here we got Portland. And let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Olympia would be the area of Mount Rainier. There's that 3.0 earthquake that they downgraded to the 2.6. Now, on the 3rd of this month, today is the 5th. These are a list of the quiet, what they call the quiet earthquakes, the tremors. Most of them they don't report. 805 of them. And here we got the Seattle area. And then yesterday, 622. Again, the Seattle area. I'll bring this out so you can see the other earthquakes. Yeah, and then we got down here by Eureka, California. Yeah, it looks like something major is coming for that area. This runs up to the Mendocino Triple Junction, but we're talking about Mount Rainier. On the USGS Natural Hazard Volcano Hazard Watch List, They got highest priority and high priorities for volcanoes. We got Alaska and Washington. Under the highest priority is Glacier Peak, Mount Baker, Mount Rainier, and Mount St. Helens. Oregon would be Crater Lake, Mount Hood, Newberry, and the Three Sisters. California, Lassen, Long Valley, and Mount Shasta. Yellowstone is listed as high priority, not the highest. Hawaii, Kilauea, and Mauna Loa. I just did a report on that, yesterday? On PNSN, they have recent earthquakes listed on this page. I'll give you a link to it. The last one they're reporting is from October 26th, a 1.0. The 26th also a 1.0. The 24th a 0.4. A 0.4 on the 24th, a 0.3. On the 21st, a 0.1. And you can see the depth is very shallow. Here's one of the sites there at Mount Rainier showing the earthquakes. And I'm going to come down here. This one here, let me pull it over because it's cut off, was the 3.0 at Monroe, Washington, that was downgraded to the 2.6. See how it's got a P wave on it? But these do not have P waves, which means it's all local where the monitor is set up there at Mount Rainier. Yeah, and we got the blobs of magma. Yeah, they actually call that blobs of magma flowing. Mount Rainier in the last 10,000 years have had 11 eruptions that deposited ash. Yeah, ashfall that went out across the country. The eruptions occurred on average about every 900 years, even though they weren't exactly every 900 years. Now, those 11 eruptions included pumice, the rock. But there, between those 11 eruptions, there was 25 other eruptions of ash. Scientists believe that ash deposit was caused by a non-eruptive event. It didn't create pumice where the 11 did. Am I confusing you? This here is some of the notes that I took. 11 known pumice-producing eruptions in 10,000 years suggest an average reoccurrence interval of about 900 years. However, the 11 eruptions were not evenly spaced through time, so it is impossible to predict when the next one will occur. Further, there are at least 25 non-pumice-bearing tephra layers that are found between the pumice layers. Some, if not all, of this non-pumiceous tephra was produced by an eruption of gas-poor magma or by eruptions driven by steam instead of magma, kind of like a geyser eruption. In the aggregate, these pumice-bearing and non-pumice-bearing tephra layers indicate that small to moderate eruptive events have reoccurred every few hundred years at Mount Rainier during the past 10,000 years. In addition to producing tephra, magnetic eruptions of Mount Rainier can produce lava flows or pyroclastic, fast-moving, hot, lethal avalanches of volcanic fragments and gas. The direct effects of such flows are to be expected on and near the flanks of Mount Rainier, largely within the boundaries of Mount Rainier National Park. Much of the far-reaching destruction can result from lahars that originate at Mount Rainier. Deposits of at least 55 lahars within the last 10,000 years have been identified in the large valleys draining Mount Rainier. So I marked out the two rivers that create the greatest danger. Can you see that white line? I don't know. The greatest danger for the Seattle area. And this has all been devastated in the past from lahars. Lahars look and behave like flowing wet concrete owing to their characteristically high concentration of entrained sediment, commonly less than or equal to 60% volume. Because they are gravity flows, the sides of Mount Rainier are very steep. They become channeled into valleys led by the steep front charge with boulders, logs, and other available debris. They quickly fill pre-existing channels and spread across the adjacent flood plains, destroying mature forests and any man-made structures in their path, including bridges, dams, roads, pipelines, and buildings. Road congestion in the Seattle area is bad enough, and to think that these bridges are going to be wiped out. There was another one up. Let me follow the river. Yeah, up over here. From the future Lahars that could happen. This article here says tens of thousands of people live in an area that may have little as 40 minutes to as much as 3 hours to move to safety once a large lahar is detected. The automated system detects lahar flows by using a network of small sensors called acoustic flow monitors embedded underground to measure ground vibrations made by passing lahars. Different alert systems would go into effect, such as NOAA weather radio, the emergency broadcast system, television and radio stations, and sirens would go off to warn the people to get to higher ground. And they've been putting up signs for evacuation routes. In an at-risk area too remote to receive notification by one of the above methods, it is necessary to be aware of the natural warning signs of an approaching lahar. Ground rumbling, accompanied by the roaring sound similar to a jet or locomotive. Move to high ground immediately is the recommended course of action. No kidding. Another paper by USGS says future eruptions at Mount Rainier. Mount Rainier is behaving about it as it has over the past 500,000 years. So all evidence suggests that the volcano would continue to erupt, grow, and collapse. And it wouldn't be a large earthquake. It says here an eruption is likely to be preceded by days to months of more of small earthquakes centered beneath the volcano by subtle deformation of the volcano. New eruptions of Mount Rainier will most likely start with a steam and ash explosions, not the lava flow, and progress to the effusion of a small lava flow, or the disintegration of steep sloping lava flows as avalanches of hot rock and gas, called a pyroclastic flow. Either type of eruption will probably create lahars that can reach heavily populated areas. Weak hydrothermally altered rocks remain at high elevations on the volcano's west flank, and some of this material could be dislodged by an earthquake during an eruptive period. We cannot rule out the possibility that altered material could collapse due to its own weakness without a triggering eruption or earthquake. Weather, heavy rain, could cause the collapse of Mount Rainier. There's an image of it there, causing a lahar. So it's not just an earthquake, but actual weather, like heavy rains. The depth and the speed of a lahar depends on its size, its sediment concentration, and the valley configuration. At Mount Rainier, most of the large lahars are inferred to have traveled as fast as 50 miles an hour at depths of 100 feet or more in confined valleys, and at a slower velocity and lesser depth in a wide populated valleys of the Puget lowland. For example, remnant valley wall deposits indicate that the Electron Lahar was approximately 50 feet deep in its pass through the mile-wide Puyallup Valley, 1 1/4 miles upstream from Ording. However, the Electron Lahar was about 180 feet deep 6 miles further upstream, where the main part of the canyon is only 1/4 miles wide. So where's Ording, Washington? Let's use Google Earth and we'll zoom in on down there. Right there. There's that community. Right there. Can you imagine that? 180 feet deep of debris and mud. And all these people, in the middle of the night during rush hour, trying to get home. The largest lahars in the post-Ice Age record of Mount Rainier started as an enormous debris avalanche originating from the sudden collapse of the flank of the volcano. Now, it doesn't say it was an earthquake, volcanic eruption. It just suddenly collapsed because of the brittleness of how the mountain has deteriorated over the years. Their deposits are notably clay-rich, implying that they contain abundant hydrothermally altered debris from within the volcano. Hot, acidic hydrothermal fluids percolating through the steep Mount Rainier epicenter are effective at converting parts of the volcanic deposit to weak, water-saturated clay. From time to time, a large, weakened section of the volcano's flank collapses, forming a huge debris avalanche that transforms into a voluminous lahar that may flow for tens of miles. Absence of geological evidence substituting coincidence of some of the large flank collapse lahars with eruptions suggests that some may have occurred with no attentive eruptive activity. It just collapsed on its own. They may have been triggered by intrusion of magma into the epicenter, by earthquakes, or by hydrothermal system explosions. Or a volcano flank may have simply collapsed when it became sufficiently destabilized by progressive hydrothermal alteration. A critical implication from a hazard mitigation standpoint is that a massive lahar from Mount Rainier may occur without the kinds of warning usually associated with an impending eruption. At least 6, and possibly as many as 13 clay-rich flank collapse lahars inundated the lower reaches of the big valleys draining Mount Rainier during the past 5,600 years. Thus, the big flank collapse lahars are a high-magnitude, low-frequency set, designated case with an approximate reoccurrence interval of 500 to 1,000 years. The youngest of these is the Electron Lahar, which inundated most of the Puyallup River Valley about 500 years ago. One much larger post-glacial flank collapse lahar has been identified. Known as the Osceola Mud Flow, it occurred about 5,600 years ago and was between 10 and 20 times the volume of the Electron Lahar. It originated as a massive collapse of Mount Rainier's summit and upper northeast flank. The Osceola Mud Flow fills a valley of the White River system north and northeast of Mount Rainier and covered more than 80 square miles of the Puget lowland and extended into the Puget Sound from what now are the Puyallup and Duwamish River valleys. Considered the worst case or maximum lahar, only about one lahar of this size is known to have occurred in 10,000 years. Lahars of this magnitude have been assigned a reoccurrence interval of 10,000 years. The abundance of such lahars in the geological record suggests an average reoccurrence time of 100 to 500 years. With an elevation of 14,410 feet, Mount Rainier is the tallest of the Cascade volcanoes with 26 named glaciers. Mount Rainier is also the most heavily glaciated Cascade volcano and ranks 3rd in total volume. So the rainy season's coming soon. If you're looking for an earthquake to cause something major to happen, it doesn't need to happen. It could just collapse under its own weight. There's a lot of people that would need to get to higher areas out of the valleys if Lahar came through. Let me bring this out to the Puget Sound. There we go. And they're telling people you won't be able to evacuate by car because all the roads are going to be congested. You're going to have to evacuate more than likely on foot. So that's something else to consider. What about all the handicapped people? Physically challenged people? So once again, thank you for sending me that Twitter post. Once again, the river is marked out in white, or the Lahars would probably travel down from Mount Rainier. Yeah, inspired me to do some more digging. Yeah, I know a lot about Yellowstone, but I haven't done a lot of research about Mount Rainier. So what are your thoughts? Are you prepared? Do you have a plan? Do you even know about the threat of a Lahar just from the collapse of the side of the volcano, or a steam eruption because magma is coming up? I'll give you a link to the report that I took these notes from. And in there, they talked about how politicians were unaware of the threat. Not just the average person, but the politicians that, help supposedly protect us from disasters and get us prepared for disasters. So at least now they got 5 Lahar warning systems in. Better than nothing, I suppose. What are your thoughts? Put your comments down below. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Please stay safe, and I will talk to you later. God bless you. Bye.